Imagine this. It's the year 721, and a single city is about to face down an empire. 30,000 soldiers are marching toward Toulouse, and everyone knows what happens when the Umayyad war machine rolls through. Cities fall, kingdoms crumble, and entire civilizations get erased.
Through here,
but Toulouse,
but it's exposed.
They're not backing
we must
down.
Move quickly.
What happens
Agreed.
next is one of the
We
most
strike
brutal
before they
sieges in
expect
medieval
us.
history, ending with a counterattack so savage and unexpected that it shatters an army that was supposed to be unstoppable. This is the story of how one Duke and one city held the line against an empire and won. Let's rewind. The early 700s were a time when Western Europe was split into two completely different worlds. South of the Pyrenees, the Umayyad Empire ruled the Iberian Peninsula with an iron fist. The old Visigothic kingdom had fallen city by city, and the region was now called Al-Andalus, governed from the glittering capital of Cordoba. The Umayyads had roads, armies, resources, and they were constantly looking north for their next opportunity. And the land beyond those mountains? It looked rich, open, and politically weak. North of the Pyrenees was Aquitaine, a region in what's now southwestern France. At its center was Toulouse, ruled by Duke Odo, also known as Odo the Great. Aquitaine wasn't an empire. It was more like a collection of lands, villages, and local lords held together by one shared belief. They were free people, and they intended to stay that way. The tension between these two worlds was silent but absolute. The Umayyads were powerful, united, and used to winning. Aquitaine was smaller, fiercely independent, and surrounded by rival Frankish kingdoms. Everyone understood that when the invasion came, Aquitaine would be first. So what caused the war? There was no single dramatic spark. It was simple and predictable. After conquering Iberia, the Umayyads wanted stability, clear borders, and control of the trade routes heading into Gaul. Toulouse and the lands to the north stood directly in the way. Duke Odo refused to submit because he remembered what happened to the Visigoths, and he wasn't about to let his people meet the same fate. By early 721, the whispers became real. Merchants started talking about Umayyad scouts crossing the mountains. Travelers reported Arabic banners on the southern roads, and the rumors changed every week, but the direction never did. South to north, closer and closer. The man leading the Umayyad invasion was Al-Sam ibn Malik al-Kavlani, the governor of Al-Andalus. He was experienced,
the fastest
calm,
route is through
methodical.
here, but it's
He studied the
exposed.
scout reports,
We must move quickly.
examined
Agreed.
maps of the
We
Pyrenees
strike
valleys,
before they expect
and
us.
calculated the defenses he'd face. In his mind, the campaign was inevitable, and Toulouse could be taken quickly. So the order went out. Soldiers from across Iberia began to gather. Cavalry rode in from the plains of Seville. Archers came from the eastern cities, and infantry arrived from every corner. Men hardened by years of constant warfare. Blacksmiths worked through the night. Quartermasters packed supplies. And every village in Al-Andalus felt the vibration of the coming march. By early spring, the preparations were complete. Tens of thousands of soldiers gathered in the valley roads leading toward the Pyrenees. Horses stamped, dust floated in the air, and Umayyad standards fluttered in the wind. Al-Sam traced the route on a map and said it plainly: north-north to Toulouse. At dawn, the drums rolled, orders echoed across the camps, and scouts mounted their horses. The Umayyad army began its long march toward Gaul. Meanwhile, in Toulouse, Duke Odo knew the storm was coming. When confirmation finally arrived, brought by a lone rider at sunset, Odo received the report without surprise. The Umayyad army had crossed the mountain passes and was advancing steadily. He had been warning for years that this storm was building, and now it was here. At dawn, Odo held a council, and the room was filled with quiet realization. Maps were unrolled, reports were compared, and the truth became clear. The force was too large to stop in open ground and too organized to scatter. If Aquitaine was going to survive, Toulouse had to withstand the first blow. Everyone in that room understood the weight of it. If Toulouse stood, Aquitaine could rally. If it fell, no amount of soldiers would save them. The call went out, and Aquitaine's survival now depended on its people acting as one. Men started arriving in steady streams. Farmers, hunters, even young boys who wanted to fight. Fields were harvested early so grain could be stored. Blacksmiths fired up their forges and worked day and night. Women mended leather, carried stones, filled jars with salt and dried meat. The city felt like a heartbeat, fast,
So many banners.
determined, alive. Odo walked among his people without fanfare, and his presence steadied them. He inspected the reinforced gates, checked the old Roman stone towers, and watched the soldiers drill until their movements grew sharp and instinctive. From the highest walls, you could see the countryside shifting week by week. Traffic thinned. Merchants stopped coming. The roads emptied except for scouts. Each report confirmed the same thing. The enemy was marching with discipline, and they were coming fast. Inside the city, fear existed, but a stronger resolve was rising. People whispered songs of old Aquitaine at night. Families lit candles for ancestors who had survived past invasions, and Odo finalized his plan.
What is that?
He would keep a mobile force outside the walls,
The
a hidden
Umayyads.
blade that could strike
So many
when the moment
banners.
came. It was a risk. It meant the city would be alone for a time. But Odo believed that Aquitaine didn't win through numbers. It won through courage. Then, one cold morning, a murmur spread through the watchtowers. The horizon to the south darkened with movement. Lines of cavalry, columns of infantry stretching beyond sight, standards rising and falling like waves. The Umayyad army had reached the plains before Toulouse, and the people watched from the ramparts in tight, breathless silence. The reality finally took shape. The storm had arrived. Toulouse didn't sleep that first night. The enemy campfires burned in organized lines, casting an orange glow across the plains. You could hear the steady, disciplined rhythm of an army settling into position. By dawn, the transformation was complete. The open plain had become a fortress, tents in perfect rows, supply wagons, watchtowers. Inside the city, the pressure thickened. Silence carried unspoken fears. Mothers tied charms around their children's necks. Old men sharpened whatever tools they had. Life continued, but in a slower, tighter rhythm. Then, mid-morning, the Umayyads made their first move. They cut the roads. Cavalry blocked every path in and out of Toulouse. Watchfires appeared on the ridges, and scouts patrolled in silent, sweeping arcs. The message was unmistakable. No one enters, no one leaves. Toulouse had become an island in a sea of enemy soldiers. Odo watched from the northern tower, studying the distant dust kicked up by the patrols. There was no immediate assault, just the tightening of the net. This was a different kind of warfare, a slow, suffocating method meant to grind the enemy down. Odo ordered the grain stores to be opened and counted. He supervised the rationing of water and food. He walked the ramparts with quiet, steady steps, his presence not that of a commander giving orders, but of a man sharing the burden. Outside, the Umayyads brought forward heavy timbers and wrapped bundles. There was a clatter of metal, the construction of siege engines. They were building something larger, something meant to break more than just stone. The enemy wanted to crush the body and spirit of Toulouse before they even struck. By late afternoon, the tension was unbearable. The sky darkened, the heat rose, and then the Umayyad camp fell still. Soldiers took their positions. Banners were raised in slow, deliberate motions. Archers climbed wooden towers. Engineers lined up behind covered frames. The defenders watched them move like a single organism, efficient, patient, terrifying. Then it began. A single drum beat rolled across the field, deep, heavy, absolute. The attack started with the archers. A wave of arrows darkened the sky, and the defenders threw themselves behind the stone merlins. Arrowheads hammered into the stone with vicious force. Then the siege engines lurched forward, towering wooden screens that shielded the soldiers as they advanced. The defenders could only see the feet beneath the walls, marching in perfect step. The structure moved inch by inch toward the tallest towers. From the streets below, the residents could hear muffled thunder and rhythmic pounding. Odo's captains shouted for boiling pitch, and cauldrons were hauled up by chains. The Umayyads weren't rushing. They were advancing steadily, shields up, formation tight. It was like watching a storm roll forward, not fast, but unstoppable. The covered screens reached the base of the wall, and Toulouse unleashed everything. Stones crashed down like meteors. Pitch burst in sheets of fire. Slingers hurled lead bullets with helmet-shattering force. The first screen splintered, but new ones slid into place. The lines didn't break. They thickened. Then the rams appeared, carried under long iron-plated roofs and pushed forward by dozens of men. The wood creaked under the weight, emitting a deep, ominous groan. The defenders gripped stones, spears, and hope. The first blow landed, a single impact that echoed through the gate, the ground, and their bones. It didn't break anything, but it marked the true beginning of the siege. By the time the sun dipped low, the smoke was drifting across the plains. Broken ladders were scattered against the walls. The groans of the wounded echoed through the city. The Umayyads didn't withdraw far. They remained close, adjusting their positions and reinforcing their machines. Toulouse had survived the opening strike, but only barely, and the defenders realized the empire was nowhere near finished. They were only warming up.